I had just celebrated my 18th birthday and I was feeling fit, healthy, excited for the next chapter ahead of me. It all started when Mum and I came back on my 18th birthday from Melbourne, and we were on the plane and I had a bit of a niggle in my head, and it was a bit of a headache turning into what I would have thought a migraine was. Woke up that night and I was in complete sweats. So my bed was drenched. I knew that something wasn't right. I had a viral infection. That time in between my first hospital visit to now was probably 24 hours later. And this infection just had skyrocketed. All in the space of 30 seconds from that point, I was rushed into surgery. And all of a sudden, it was blank.
Hi, souls. I have a question for you. What happens when the body can no longer respond, but awareness is still present? Listen to this. Our guest today was in a coma, but she wasn't gone. From the outside, her body was completely still. No movement, no response, nothing that suggested awareness. But within, something remained. She was aware. She was imagining. She was engaging with an inner experience that didn't rely on her physical body. And that's where this story begins to open, because we're taught that we are the body, that when the body stops, everything stops. But what if awareness isn't something we have, but something we are? Samara's experience points to that possibility, that even when the physical body is quiet, we are ever present. And what brought her back wasn't just medical. It was her ability to engage with her inner awareness. So the question becomes, if awareness remains, what role do we play in our own healing? Hi, souls. Welcome to Inner Library Alignment. I'm Rachel Golden, and together we transform the stories that no longer serve us so we can reveal our true nature through conscious authorship. This is a space where we recognize that our true nature is pure awareness and that we are not the stories we've been living inside. And today I am joined by Samara Chambers. She's an educator whose lived experience invites us to look more deeply at what it means to be aware, even when the body cannot respond. Samara, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me, Rachel. Really excited to share my story.
All right, I just want to go ahead and first, do we have permission to go into your inner library?
You do, yes.
All right. So take us to your inner library, to your shelves, and pull out the book, June 2011, and tell us what was happening in that story at that time.
June 2011, I had just celebrated my 18th birthday. I was any typical 18-year-old. I was celebrating, well, actually it wasn't so typical because my mum and I went to Melbourne. We had a big shopping trip. We ate lots of great food, and I was feeling fit, healthy, excited for the next chapter ahead of me.
And what was the next chapter ahead of you that you were preparing for?
That next chapter was thinking about the jobs that I was about to start. I was going on big adventures with my friends. We'd just planned our OE to go overseas. We had lots of different plans of places to travel, places to explore, and the world was sort of our oyster. We were so excited about what was to come. So yeah, it was very exciting at that time.
So you've mentioned your friends, you're part of your social life. Were you preparing for university, or were you a part of any sports? Tell us more about that.
So I was very into sport, playing water polo, netball, and I think that was what brought the community of my friends together. Just like any typical 18-year-old, we'd always go partying, as you do. But the next part after our travel was definitely getting into where should we go? What should I do for university? Like, where should I go? That was the story. And I wanted to pause that and I wanted to think, okay, adventure is first, education second, and that would build on my story as who I am.
When did you first notice that something was off in your body?
It all started when Mum and I came back on my 18th birthday from Melbourne, and we were on the plane, and I had a bit of a niggle in my head, and it was a bit of a headache turning into what I would have thought a migraine was. I'd never had a migraine before. And I went home and I sort of just shrugged it off and slept it off. And, you drink water and you do everything that you need to do. And then the next day, I did end up going to school because I nearly just finished and we were halfway through the year. And that day I had to go home early. And it wasn't a usual thing where I went home. I was someone who went to school. I was someone who took it seriously. And I was someone who really enjoyed my education because of all my friends that were at school. So that day I went home and I pretty much slept the whole day. My migraine got worse. I wasn't eating anything. I had the shakes. My body was like completely shaken. And then all of a sudden I slept that whole day and woke up that night, probably at around 7 p.m. and I was in complete sweats. So my bed was drenched. I had to change everything that I was wearing. I had to change my whole bed. And that was just something that I didn't really think of too much, but I just thought this is really strange. And the next part was I then woke up the next morning and I knew that something wasn't right. So that's when I made my decision. I was like, I sort of took it upon myself that I need to go to the hospital. Something's not right.
Okay.
That's the first time that I was taken to the hospital by my dad. And they took me in and they did all the blood tests and they tried to figure out what was going on. And it just came back as I had a viral infection. So they sent me home. They sent me home with like Panadol and just a couple of other things. And this time I actually went to my mum's and I was the only one home. My stepmom, she was in the hospital. She's actually a nurse. And I had a friend coming over. She was coming to spend some time with me. And I knew that in my stepmom's bathroom, I had a thermometer. And my fevers kept getting worse. My migraines kept getting worse. I actually started vomiting and my body just continued to go on these like crazy shakes. So anyway, I made the decision to go upstairs and get the thermometer. And I took my temperature and it came back as 39.8 degrees or something. And for an 18-year-old, like I didn't really know what that meant. So I texted my stepmom and I said like, hey, the temperature 39.8 degrees, is that normal for body temperature? At the time, didn't really know that. She goes, no, that's serious. Your infection has got worse. You need to call an ambulance right now and get to hospital because like I said, no one was at home.
So let me just clarify, this is your second time going to the doctor.
That's right. This is the second time that I'm going into the doctor.
This is after you had already been diagnosed with having a viral infection.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So my friend was coming around and I knew she was coming, so I didn't call the ambulance because I knew she was very close. And she got to my house and I sort of like walked my way outside. I don't even really remember this part. And got in her car and I said, you need to drive me to hospital. And she did exactly that. She was freaked. She didn't really know what was going on. And that time in between my first hospital visit to now was probably 24 hours later.
Okay.
And this infection just had skyrocketed in terms of what I thought I was like and what I am like now.
So they only detected it as being a viral infection. They didn't have any specifics?
They didn't have any specifics.
Okay.
So this time when I got to hospital, my friend dropped me off and she just said, do you want me to come in? I said, no, I'll go in. I walked my way into, we call it emergency in New Zealand.
Okay.
And I went in and I asked the doctor and I said, hey, I was in 24 hours ago. And right now I'm feeling way worse than I was. I don't think I had it all together and I probably stumbled my words and I was probably limping my way in there. But once I sat down, they could see that something went wrong and they thought it might have been meningitis.
Okay.
So what they did is they took me into a room, they did a lumbar puncture, And this wasn't something that happened straight away. They got the results back. And once the results came back, it came back negative of meningitis. So then they thought, well, what's next? So they just had me on observation. That was when my mum and dad were called, and all in the space of 30 seconds from that point, I was rushed into surgery.
And were you aware of what was happening at that time?
So thinking back to it, it was quite a big blur, but I do remember mum arriving, and I remember there was a lot of uncertainty in terms of what was actually going on.
Okay.
I remember going into a room. I was, I had the needle going in. I had other things happening. I had a mask on my face. And all of a sudden, it was blank.
It was blank.
It was blank.
What have you been told was happening?
So what I've been told is they were putting in the IV drip to then put me under to go into a emergency surgery.
Okay.
And for the emergency surgery, what they did is they actually did a surgery where they, excuse my language, but basically cut me open to see inside my organs. They basically wanted to see if this infection had taken over and got into my bloodstream. At this point in time, they knew that I had septicemia.
Okay.
Septicemia had taken over my body, and by the time they had cut me open, I then went septic. So septic meaning that the virus actually got into my bloodstream and had taken over the whole body.
Okay.
At that point, that is when I got an IV on my neck, and that was straightforward penicillin, just going straight through my body to try and cure me of whatever was taking over during that time. To give you a very quick brief, septicemia is a viral infection that can take over your body, and your body is basically in toxic shock where your organs and everything shut down and you no longer can cope. They start eating away your insides, and there's sort of no going back from something like this.
Okay. And so tell us the last moment you recall being aware.
Full awareness was at home, getting in my friend's car and heading into emergency. And I think once I got to emergency and I was with everyone who I deemed to be the experts and being able to help me, that's when I maybe just let go.
And what happened after you went in for this surgery? Or what have you been told?
I was told that I was put into an induced coma.
Okay, we'll go ahead and stop there for right now. In our next episode, we'll talk about what your experience was in the coma. So thank you, Samara. In the next chapter, we will explore what Samara experienced within that space and how her inner world became part of her return. If something in you felt illuminated, stay with that. That awareness matters. And if you're ready to explore what that means for you, continue this journey with us and subscribe. We'll step into this together in the next chapter. Thank you.